Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Diet Time is here. That's right, we're talking the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the ruins of Camp Crystal Lake. And this is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the gory detail of 2009's Friday the 13th in the hopes that a topless waterboarder's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to wear the brooch of my dead mother, the one and the only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing, Gina?
Well, I'm speaking to you from my island retreat that I was able to purchase with the money we have made from our Patreon account.
Oh my goodness. Well, you are living very high on the hog, and this comes as a great surprise to me.
I just, you haven't started building your money room yet?
No, the checks have not really come to me yet. So should I be checking the mailbox more often? Is that how it works?
You should be, and you should be getting fitted for your comical old-timey bathing suit that you can do a nosedive into your big pile of gold coins.
Well, I look very good in a monocle, and especially good when it pops out at night when I become surprised. So I'm very much looking forward to this change of fortune in my life.
So all you're waiting for is that giant check for someone to roll up in front of your house.
That's right. If we can get one of the showgirls from The Price is Right to present it, even better. I have to get something off my chest here, Gina. I don't know if you've noticed, but we are not alone. That is right. We have a special guest. He is a writer and editor for the very brand new edition of Fangoria, which drops this month. And he also is the author of a new book, Our Lady of the Inferno, which is out now wherever fine books are sold. The one, the only, Preston Fassel. How are you doing, Preston?
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for having me on.
I'm very happy to have you here. We're so excited for the new edition of Fangoria, and I can't wait to dig into your book. And I also happen to know that you appear to be the resident Friday the 13th fan of the current Fangoria staff.
That's what I've been told. Now, Phil Nobile Jr., our editor-in-chief, is also got a lot of affection for the series, but among the crew in the office, I think that I am the only one who can boast as vast a collection of Friday the 13th merchandise and love for the series as I can.
Yeah, you have a vast mask collection. Is that something that you have purchased or you have created yourself?
I have created. I purchased the ABS blanks, and then I cut and drilled a couple of them. A few of them where I was a little bit more particular about how I wanted them to look. I had somebody else do the drilling for me after a few snafus. But then I did paint them all myself. I can boast that. The
Wow.
paint jobs are completely mine. As a matter of fact, the Part 4 mask I painted and stripped 4 different times. And actually on the last time I ended up giving myself chemical burns with the paint stripper. And after that, my wife told me I wasn't allowed to make hockey masks anymore.
That is a common complaint from most wives. You don't put the dishes in the dishwasher properly. Why don't you take out the trash? Stop making hockey masks. We've all heard it. Well, that's awesome. So now we have a small tradition here at the Kill by Kill podcast. We always ask our guests what their first experience was with the Friday the 13th franchise. So what was yours?
And that's really cool for me because Friday the 13th actually constitutes one of my earliest memories. I was born in 85, and when I was I'm saying when I was very small, I mean, all throughout my childhood, I used to go to the grocery store with my mother. And from the time that I was 2 until I was 11, we lived in Missouri, and we would go to this grocery store called Deerberg's. And they had the video store at the front of the grocery store just past the checkouts. And the wall of the video store was decorated with all of these massive posters. I don't know if they were like special orders for the store, or if they blew them up or what, but they were bigger than your average size movie posters. And one of my earliest memories is standing in line with her at the checkout at Deerberg's and looking ahead and seeing the poster for Jason Takes Manhattan. And that became this strange formative experience for me. And then years later, another grocery store in St. Louis, Schnucks, they had this vast video game section. And again, I found the box for the much lamentable NES Friday the 13th adaptation. And again, it was this very strange experience for me. There was something that seemed off and wrong about it. And what's this like skull face wearing a hockey mask with an axe? What am I seeing? And it's stuck in my imagination for years to come.
So what was the actual film that you actually ended up watching first?
The very first film I saw was Freddy versus Jason. And that's cool, too, because that is one of the very first movies that I went to the theater to see by myself after I had gotten a driver's license and, could go out and do things on my own. And I had not at that point actually seen any of the Friday the 13th films, but I knew that this was this seminal horror experience, and I knew that I would regret it forever if I missed out on it. And at the time, I was living in a town called Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And it was in between being this small town where you literally drove through cow pastures to get to the grocery store. And today, it's the fourth largest city in the state of Oklahoma. After they put the highway through, it exploded. But back in the early 2000s, it was still a small town, very conservative town. And I could not find any of the Friday the 13th movies at the video stores. If you wanted to watch horror movies at that time in Broken Arrow, you worked for that and you found the video stores that carried them and you knew where to get the good tapes at, but could not track any Friday the 13th down. But even still, I said, as a horror fan, this is something you have to do. You have to be able to say that you were there in the theater when Freddy fought Jason. And so I went and saw this movie and, have that memory now.
That is a very triumphant take on having gone to the theater to see Freddy versus Jason, a movie in which someone uses a gay slur to describe Freddy Krueger. I don't know that I'm super looking forward to covering that one, and however much time it takes us to get through the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I enjoy the triumph in which you tell that story. I really enjoy that.
Oh, it was a fantastic experience.
Much better than my first in-theater experience watching a full Friday the 13th movie. I did sneak in for a moment to watch Friday the 13th 3D when it was playing opposite the same theater as playing Jaws 3D, and they used the same glasses. I saw Jason Goes to Hell and was very confused for a multitude of reasons. Some of which we talked about in the 6 or so episodes it took us to get through it. And so that brings us to the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th. But I'm sure everyone is asking themselves at home, well, Patrick, who is still left alive? It's time for a quick body count. Let's just check my notes, and everyone is alive.
Except Donnie.
Except for Donnie. He's fucking a mannequin in the great mannequin fuck spot in the sky. A mannequin named Gina.
That's beautiful.
That's a great triumph. I'm so glad that this could be the way you were honored by the series, Gina.
I'm going to carry that with me through the rest of my life.
And so with that, we have managed to eliminate almost no one who matters at all in the majority of this movie. So great job. Of course, when we left the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th, it was at a very important moment, something that could only be described in meme language, in that you need to get you a man who looks at you the same way Jason looks at himself with a hockey mask on.
Yeah, there's definitely a finally I've got the perfect haircut. This is going to change everything.
He does have the kind of hairline that benefits from a hockey mask. It's high in a way.
That's an aspect of this design of Jason that I actually appreciated. I think they should play around with more kind of mangy hair looks for him. The shaved head is cool for different iterations, but as long as they're mixing things up, Skullet Jason, I'm behind that decision.
Well, Jason X, had it looked like a bunch of like Brillo pads stuck to his head, which is strange and inexplicable.
Yeah, it looks like he owned a pizza parlor, but did not operate a pizza parlor. Simply owned the building, owned the business, but he doesn't want to get his hands dirty.
That's a very specific character description.
It really is.
He owns a pizza parlor. He does not work in the pizza parlor.
It may be vaguely racist, so I'm probably in a lot of trouble. We'll probably leave that where that is. But let's get right back into it. Let's cut to the titular lake where Nolan is nagging a girl he just met named Chelsea and her extremely shiny legs about water skiing in a boat, which is an activity that was strictly forbidden to him by Trent. And I'm confused as to, it almost feels like there's a weird edit here. He's either negging her in that, why won't you steal this boat with me? You're too inhibited, which is stealing and an inhibition are not the same things. Or is he trying to get her to water ski topless, negging her with her inhibitions? That I can see. And also I dislike.
There's a lot of nudity in this Friday the 13th, like a lot, like way more than I expected for 2009 era horror at this point. I kind of thought they'd started like this had to have been rated R, right?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because this was kind of around the time where I was sort of laying low from horror for a little while. I kind of gotten burned out, and I had assumed that they either were like the super extreme hostile kind of horror or everything's sort of watered down PG-13. And then I watched this and I didn't know what this was rated. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of boobs in this. Like almost every female character shows her boobs at some point. And I don't, far from me to accuse it of being gratuitous, but there was a couple of shots where just like, we need to fit in one more boob shot in this scene.
It is a lot of female nudity. And what I only ask of it is that I would like to see more commiserate male nudity. You hire a bunch of hunks and then they all keep their shirts on, and Dick Casablancas fucking shows up in this exact sequence and he takes off his shirt, but the camera remains at this chaste Head and Shoulders commercial level on him. Like, oh, we don't want to see his chest. Yes, we do. Some of us would like to see his wang, but like, show us you hired a bunch of man meat and then you don't really pay that off. I think the only bare chest on a dude we see in this section of the film is on Trent, which is fine. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, Trent's more like a hair attraction.
I don't want to see Trent naked any more than I want to see a Backstreet Boy naked. It just doesn't seem... I realize that they're all like in their 30s and 40s now, and it's perfectly legal. I still don't want to see that.
But they're so dreamy, Gina. Come on. They just want it that way.
Probably completely hairless, which is always upsetting.
Oh my God. So it's just a quick rule of thumb for you filmmakers out in the audience. If a couple issue a challenge to one another, the audience should know what that challenge is. Just try it sometimes and inform your audience. It doesn't have to be belabored, but I'd like to know it anyways.
Well, lucky for him, she apparently is an Olympic level topless water skier. I mean, she's like doing tricks and jumping around and like, so like, and it's like, and maybe at some point, and again, I attribute this to bad editing, that maybe she had mentioned, oh, I used to water ski. Whereas he's like kind of daring, hey, I'll bet you can't water ski. And then lo and behold, here she is like, you're doing like, Florida tourist attraction stunt jumps and all. And her boobs do not move. It's impressive. They
no, they
absolutely
don't.
100% in place.
They do not. They don't move on her. They don't move on her stunt double, who is doing the vast majority of the waterboarding tricks. But I can't really blame her or look down on her for water skiing topless. I myself, the vast majority of the times I've water skied topless. So
but what was the boob sitch? Were they in place or were they like?
Oh, they were in place. They were taut. They were firm. Very firm to the point where you're not sure that you could have, a little bounce goes a long way, but fine. We don't need to get into body shaming here.
This is what happens when you go to Panama to get your boobs done, Patrick. We talked about this. There's supposed to be a natural movement to them.
Here's the thing, though, Gina, and Preston, if you don't remember this, I'm going to remind you, is that because this young woman was a pop star and she blamed the sinking of her music career on 9/11.
Okay.
They're going to say she blamed the sinking of her career on a bad boob job.
That may have happened while the music career was happening. All I'm saying is, based on the music videos that I have watched, she was primarily an ass-focused artist.
Did she have it was one of those things where her album cover had the World Trade Center with a plane flying into it or something? Like one of those badly timed, or Cookie Monster taking a bite out of it or something?
I'm not that I'm aware. I have not tracked that down. Let's cut to Clay and Jenna, where we get this bad monster hunter's backstory. It's different than all the other backstories of bad monster hunters we've seen before. Turns out he is bailed on his mom and sister to grow his hair out wild and free without the constraints of family or the illness of a woman who gave birth to you to hold you back. So it looks great. His hair looks awesome. Also, he may be a terrible person.
Like every other character in this movie.
Yes, but I feel like what they're going for here is to make Clay appear relatable, or it was a family situation he just couldn't deal with, and he left, and he regrets it now, and he's willing to admit that he did a bad thing. But it also makes him kind of look like a dick, not an active dick like Trent, but like a passive dick.
And there's something I wonder about with this one, because as the series started to get into its later entries back with the original Paramount films, they kind of started to theme them. And number 6 is kind of like the universal monster Friday the 13th. And then number 7 is Jason versus Carrie. And then number 8 is Jason Takes a Cruise. And this one, I almost feel like on some level, conscious or subconscious, they were doing Bret Easton Ellis writes Friday the 13th.
I'll buy it.
the thing that really gets me thinking that maybe there's some degree of intentionality to it is the two characters are named, the two main guys are Clay and Trent. And those are two of the main guys in Less Than Zero. Are Clay and Trent. It's Clay.
Oh my God.
And yeah, there's definitely a lot of simmering class rage between Trent
Yes.
and Chewie and his friend. And my favorite scene has to do with Chewie just getting it out of his system in the storage room that looks like the back room of a Dick's Sporting Good.
Yeah, there is a lot of class struggle going on here. In the last episode, we were openly wondering how the Jason Voorhees economy is benefiting Crystal Lake, because everyone seems to just sweep his murder sprees underneath the carpet. I guess because they don't pay much in property tax. I don't really know how it works, but it seems like everyone was in on it, was part of this. But it could also be that there's this overclass of rich people who don't want to live in a place that might be known for a long string of murders. And so they just don't talk about it.
Oh, I figure it's because Jason grows all that sweet ass weed and they don't want to kill a good thing they got going.
But how does his weed sales filter back into the local economy?
Well, I figure they're buying it.
It's like a quality thing. It's like if there's a local shop that makes a great Italian sandwich, you go there. You don't go to fucking Subway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And if the owner of that sub shop occasionally kills some people, that's just the cost of doing business.
It's like,
again, that Italian deli owner that I was talking about earlier. See, it all comes back around.
It's like Mrs. Lovett's pies in Sweeney Todd. It's kind of quietly assumed that everybody knows what's going on, but they're so successful and they taste so good.
I think pound for pound, this is a better written and acted scene than the quote unquote "I was a bad boy" sequence from Part 7. Although I do wish that Melissa were sneaking around the woods spying on them in neon blue with her white cowboy boots on, which no one notices.
Right in.
That's right. There's no way you could notice her in the bluest of blue outfits with white boots on. The woman is wearing pearls to spy on people. God, I miss Melissa. She was the fucking best.
Yeah, Trent is but a poor facsimile of the asshole rich kid who claims to be everybody's friends, but really just they seem to hate everybody and everybody seems to hate them in kind, which is very odd because you were saying the whole thing with Clay kind of piecing out with his sick mom and his sister. And this is a problem that often comes up in the Friday the 13th movies is I have no idea how old these characters are supposed to be. They could be anywhere from 18 to 30. Mm-hmm. And so, you exactly how old was Clay's sister when he left her behind to take care of their sick mother together by herself?
One would assume he is the older brother of these two.
Right.
But so he left his younger sister to take care of his sick mom? Oh, he's supposed to be a hero. I mean, I guess it's nice that he is complicated and he is obviously coming to terms with this. So dramatically, I understand it. But as a person just watching it in a short segment and thinking about it way too hard,
it's like, hey, wait a minute. You're kind of a jerk.
You're kind of a wiener. Also, you can really tell he's not trying to get into Jenna's pants because, first of all, she doesn't have any. Secondly, this is not a way to woo anyone of the same or opposite sex that I'm aware of. To give them the old, I had the opportunity to show up at my mom's funeral, but I didn't. That is not a panty peeler right there.
Oh, you don't think that, talking about moms with cancer isn't like absolutely first date conversation?
No, you hold on to that one for the second. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I haven't dated in a really long time.
I don't know about the two of you, but a girl tells me that she abandoned a dying family member and didn't attend the funeral. I'm ready to go.
It's like, wow, you just do not give a shit at all. I like that in a person.
That's a girl you take home to mom and then don't expect her to stick around because she does not have a track record of that. Let's cut back to the water skiing sequence where after 23 years, we finally get a decent in-movie song, Tick, Tick, Boom by the Hives. So there you go. In all of the Friday the 13th franchise, we have 3, ladies and gentlemen, 3 good songs.
It probably cost half their budget to get no, because 2009, I think the Hives weren't really a thing anymore by that point. They were
Tick Tick Boom did very well for them. Yeah. That's practically their jock jam.
They were a little more 2001 to 2003, I think. So it probably didn't cost quite half the budget to secure the rights to use it.
Right. Well, it
also,
was not exactly the freshest track.
Any of those people in that hunting lodge really listen to the Hives?
No. I mean, if it comes on the radio, they would listen to them. But no, maybe Chewy has it.
Trent and all them. Yeah, they're the type of guys that listen to yacht rock ironically, except not really.
Yeah. The people who think that Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, is a yacht rock song because it mentions the ocean. Those fucking noobs. Listen to Beyond Yacht Rock, people. Get educated. All right. So I think she's a fantastic topless water skier. Now, here's something else I'm going to admit to. All right. I can be vulnerable too and admit terrible things about myself. I would not, under any circumstances, water ski bottomless. And I don't care how many Patreon funders we get. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to expose my balls to oncoming waves and water. It just
have you ever fallen into like a pool and you land around that sweet spot on your stomach and it just feels like you're dying? It just feels like God's hand has just come right down, just slapped you so hard. Imagine just doing that. You're being pulled behind a boat at like 65 miles per hour.
I'm not going to take that kind of nut shot. No, thank you. It's a pass.
A loincloth. Can we get you to do a loincloth?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's what I'm recording in right now. It's a loincloth. It just allows me a freedom of movement. Preston, I'm assuming you're also recording in a loincloth?
I didn't think we were supposed to wear anything.
Okay. This is a worry-free zone. You just need to be who you are.
I'm wearing my Mrs. Roper caftan, so I'm ready.
But that's the sexiest of all garments, so I think you're okay there.
No, I've got to correct that. It was Mary Hartman's pinafore. That is the pinnacle of 1970s erotic domesticity.
I think it's mortuary, where everyone is wearing sweet-ass nightgowns and that. Everyone.
Oh, like the
hottest of nightgowns.
The granny gowns, where like every inch of your body from like neck to toes is covered in flannel.
Yes, but they're very thin. It shows you everything and yet shows you nothing. Watch Mortuary, everybody. It's very long and occasionally fun, especially when people are wearing nightgowns. It also has a very unconvincing sex scene that they shot very late in the game because they shot it 2 years apart.
Oh shit, we need a sex scene.
Yeah, pretty much. Cut to Gay Joke Central. Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote that down wrong. Let's cut back to the Cabin of Doom where Trent, Lawrence, Chewie, and Bree are all playing beer pong. At one point, we learned that the loser of this round of beer pong must shoot the boot, where you drink a beer out of a dude's shoe. And having next door neighbors that currently play beer pong, I can tell you it sucks. Fuck you, beer pong. It's a hot take.
Wait. You have neighbors who play beer pong?
Their college-age sons have a tendency to come home when they are off at the lake, and they spend all weekend in a driveway playing beer pong, and I live in a house that's mostly windows. And so I get to hear it as if it is happening right next to me. And it is not interesting as something you just want to hear. And there's not enough beer I can drink on my end to make it enjoyable. And I wish they would stop.
I was going to say that, I mean, actually playing beer pong isn't all that interesting, let alone watching other people play beer pong.
It is not a spectator sport, nor is it a participant sport.
I remember the days of my youth getting through one round and letting everybody take their turn and be like, fuck it, I'm going to watch Enter the Dragon.
You made the right choice. And so Trent loses and then refuses to shoot the boot. He's the worst kind of weenie. He's always talking big and then backing out and banking that you will still fuck with him anyways because, I don't know, he looks like Tom Cruise during his long hair phase. I don't fucking know because he's rich. He's an asshole. And I know he's meant to be. It means that the characterization is effective.
He's very effective and effective in the sense that you are just counting down the minutes. It's like, okay, he's not making it. He's not making it to the end of this movie. If the screenwriters really, really wanted to fuck with us, they would have let him live.
Oh, how amazing would it have been if everybody else dies and he is our final boy and it comes down to this battle between him and Jason?
I would respect that game, to be honest with you, because it would mean they were really defying expectations and they meant to do it all along. Here's what I want. He either lives all the way till the end, or he gets a death on par with Melissa's, which is particularly brutal and rough. And then she gets thrown behind a TV like a cat you don't like, or maybe a cat in a diner that you're closing down, like in part 5. I want his death to be particularly brutal, and so I'm on pins and needles waiting for that to happen because we watch it in segments. We don't watch the whole thing. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Chewie drinks the beer inside the shoe because he is the best of us.
Chewie is absolutely one of my favorite characters in the whole series. I would say that this one as a whole ranks on the lower half of the scale for me, but Chewie is such a great character, and just so like the only one of these characters that even resembles an actual human being that I would imagine encountering in real life.
He is very engaging in this role, and he is very funny. He seems very natural in a setting where some people don't appear natural at all. I like him. He's also in the scene with a character we have not discussed at all yet. Her name is Bree, and let me check my notes here. She has very white teeth and has said 3 things in the entire film so far. So that's Bree, everybody. Hi, Bree.
I made a note. I said that she kind of looks like a sleazy Olsen twin.
Now that sounds like a great compliment, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Her primary purpose seems to be just waiting for the opportunity to get Trent alone, and I'm like, why? He's not somebody that you need to be, biding your time until you get a chance alone with him. But I mean, her primary contribution to the movie is doing a dance that sort of reminds me of the dance in Death Proof, where it's just her just swiveling her hips nonstop like Steven Tyler in an Aerosmith video for about what feels like 20 minutes straight. And then she gets an equally endless sex scene.
You read my mind. It reminded me of the sexy dance in the original Wicker Man, where she bumps and grinds with her hands up against the door for what seems like forever, while the most 1972 of music plays in the background, and the policeman sits baffled next to a candle made out of a hand. It's the Wicker Man, everybody.
Looking kind of awkward as anybody would in that situation.
Meanwhile, let's cut back to that awesome Hives track that's been placed in this movie 2 years late. And Chelsea dips her nose into the water, takes a spill. It's a very technical waterboard talk. So if anyone needs me to break that down for the uninitiated, I can. She fucking falls. Nolan spins the boat around and out of nowhere gets an arrow through his head for his trouble. R.I.P. Nolan. You were a wild and crazy guy.
We haven't had a good old fashioned arrow to the head since part 3.
3. Yeah, 3. And that's through the eyeball too. Yeah. This is a straight up through the skull. So that arrow was cooking.
Now, are we splitting hairs?
I like this one though because it's a nice jump scare.
It is out of nowhere, Preston.
Oh, I was saying it's a spear in part 3, right? Have we seen a legitimate?
That's true.
We haven't seen a legitimate arrow before, so I think this is his first crossbow kill in the series.
Yeah, you're right. That is a spear gun.
He got his patch and crossbow shooting.
That's right. Later in when they're searching the cabins, they do happen upon an archery trophy that someone has won. So apparently archery was a big thing at Camp Crystal Lake, and he really learned how to do it very well. For a CGI arrow and blood situation, I think it's brief enough that it works. If you pause it, it really does look fake, but I think in motion, it works well enough. But please, for the love of Christ, if you have a situation where a guy's just going to turn around with an arrow in his head, put a fucking arrow in his head. Have makeup come over and put This is technology we have had for quite some time.
They had gratuitous nudity to get to. They couldn't take the time to apply makeup. There were clothes to be shed.
They had priorities different than this. Speaking of nudity out of nowhere, once Ryan Hansen leaves this movie for us to cry about wishing that he would reemerge, we get a shot of Chelsea floating around in the water, and we get a Jaws-style underneath shot for reasons. Am I to believe that Jason is down there like the creature of the Black Lagoon? This is a very weird shot. Is it supposed to make her seem alone? She is alone in the middle of a lake waiting for a boat. I don't need an underneath shot.
They wanted you to know that they've seen a movie.
He really wants us to know he's seen a movie. Anyways, Chelsea does not swim away from a boat that's speeding at her, and she takes a shot to the head from that boat, which is not being controlled by humans since Nolan is dead. That should kill her. Like, she should be dead. Instead,
that's pretty. It's a pretty gnarly scene. It's like one of those, like, oh crap. Well, I'm a pretty good swimmer. But I think that the minute you're a little disoriented, I mean, you're just sinking like a stone.
No, she would be drowning. Like there's no way you can take a boat clipping along at that pace to the head and still be like, oh, what happened? Why would you do that? That's no, come on. This is where the unnecessary cruelty gets in the way of the storytelling. We don't need her to be dazed by a boat out of control, to be freaked out by Jason Voorhees on the shore. That is not a necessary element to this to make it happen, and yet they insist upon it anyways. I don't know. It becomes like, why? What does it add to get hit by this boat?
I just don't. I'm not. At least I'll get to this when we wrap up the whole movie. I'm not a fan of this, super amped up, extra cruel Jason. I just kill people and be done with it. You don't have to prolong, tormenting and hurting these people that you don't even know.
Yeah, that's an aspect of this particular Jason I didn't care for either. He's very perfunctory in most of the other films. He's around the time that this movie came out, another user on IMDb, I think, summed it up very succinctly. He's not a torture killer, and this is a very kind of torture killery Jason.
Oh yeah, yes. Especially like, and we're gonna get to in this episode what he does to Chewie. It's just like, oh man, come on, is that necessary? No, come on.
Yeah, he's pretty much had two modes throughout most of his on-screen life, and that is he's a sneaky slasher who stealthily climbs stairs like a ninja from the outside, or he's an intimidator. He just shows up and kills you where you happen to be. No fuss, no muss. So I guess my question to the both of you is, none of us seem to care for the cruel Jason, but do you care more for stealth slasher Jason or intimidator Jason?
I kind of like just the Jason just kind of, just appears leaping through a window or something. And I like that. I'm not a huge fan of jump scares, but I think that they work pretty well in the context of a Friday the 13th movie.
Okay. Preston, what say you?
However you would classify parts 4 and 6, Jason. I think that was the perfect, between those two is the perfect Jason.
Well, I would say that part 4, he's more of a stealthy slasher, although he does have freight train elements, and I really like that part. But part 6, he's like Godzilla or Frankenstein. He doesn't sneak up on people. If you happen to be in his way, you end up dead, like someone running away from Godzilla's foot. He just is on a path, and you're in the middle of it, so bye-bye you go. So I think you like it both ways, and I'm going to allow it, Preston.
All right.
See, in both of those situations, though, or scenarios, it's not, I hate to say it, put it this way, but it's nothing personal. He just, he just kills everything in his path, which I can respect that. But in this one, there's a sort of like, extra dose of animosity there that just, it feels like something is missing from the script. Like, were these people related to the people, to the counselors that let him drown? Why is it, matter to him that not only these people die, they die in the most awful, prolonged way imaginable?
Now, the weird thing is, Gina, is that in this watch of this, I saw something that it didn't really register with me much before. And that is, when it is revealed that there's a massive series of infrastructure tunnels underneath this abandoned sleepaway camp,
Yeah.
where they have giant iron doors because, I don't know, it doubled as a smelting plant.
I hate it.
They were.
I hate it so much. I hate this, how can we make Jason even more repulsive? I got it. Let's have him hold young women chained up in his underground rat-filled labyrinth.
Where the fuck did he get shackles? Did he run down to the corner store and pick up the shackles
And
everyone
why
has
is he
there?
holding captives? He's never done that. I don't want to be one of those. It's not canon people, but that's not canon.
Well, I'm fine with them changing canon in the sense, like, I'm fine with him having a series of underground tunnels to explain him popping up somewhere. He's not teleporting. He's got underground tunnels. Fine. I'm fine with that. It's the keeping a woman hostage for no particular reason. And then this scenario in which he has a flashback to the death of his mother and he gets soups angry. He gets to get real aggro. And he's only calmed down by the cameo that she's wearing of his dead mom. Now we get a flashback to part 2 because she was actually in the part 2 part of this movie because it's 4 different Friday the 13th movies rolled into one. But I don't remember a Jason flashback to his mom dying that he has. Storytellers have it. The movie does saga cells where we see it, but I don't remember any filmic device in which Jason remembers his mom dying until now. There's a lot of weird tonal shifts when Clay and Jenna are sneaking around Camp Crystal Lake. They find a good half dozen of these old-timey 1880 dolls stuffed places. And it's like, where did these come from? Where does this movie take place? Is this really just the Texas Chainsaw set doubling for Friday the 13th?
Yeah, I was gonna say
because that's the vibe they're giving.
There's also there's also definitely a little touch of when he's just coming back with the body lugged over his shoulder like a smoked ham. That's very, very Texas Chainsaw. And like I said in the first episode we did about this, is his house and the tunnels and where he lived with Mrs. Voorhees. It looks like an escape room. It looks like something where you're supposed to find a bunch of clues and figure them out with a little group of your coworkers or your in the middle of a family reunion to figure out where Clay's sister is.
I can't imagine a worse fate than trying to get through an escape room with my family. I really, really feel like that might be the end of me. I might have to give up. My ghost might leave my skeleton and just leap out of my mouth. Clay tries to reload the batteries into his flashlight, and Jason appears with a headless body, who I guess assume is Nolan. But I mean, he didn't cut off the head of.
Or is it Donnie?
Oh, it might be Donnie.
Why is he lugging Donnie's body back now after killing Nolan and Chelsea at the lake?
Well, I guess because Donnie smoked his weed and Jason's going to try and get that high by proxy by consuming Donnie's body and hoping that there's still enough active THC in his bloodstream that he can get.
I don't know if that would work.
I don't either, but Jason is also crazed hillbilly, redneck living in the woods. Maybe in his, thought processes, he's thinking, hey, there's still a chance to get that weed back.
So basically he's kind of a grower and not a knower as far as knowing how that works. Yeah, okay. That makes perfect sense to me. Let's move on. There's no better explanation for what happens. Jason, so Clay leaves behind his backpack, which Jason easily sees behind that mask because it might as well be noon with all the light streaming into this camp. It is well lit.
It looks like it's like filmed behind like a high school football field playing a night game. I every once in a while I just expect to hear just crowd noise in the far off distance.
Now all I can think about is that scene in Student Bodies where they make out underneath the bleachers and all the garbage is falling on them. Oh my God. Student Bodies. 2/3 of a great movie.
Love it. Masterpiece.
So what are the benefits of the Voorhees cave? Because he's Batman now, basically. It's got everything you need: multiple trapdoors, a hostage that you took 6 weeks ago, a wheel that you can sharpen your machete on and have a flashback. It's got everything.
He's got booby traps. He's got bells that like announce his arrival. Which is, who's he announcing his arrival to?
Oh no! Those bells are trapped. Are that string that Jenna trips over, so he knows if that bell rings, they're in X part of the grounds, so that he can pop up in that trapdoor and get people.
No, see, I don't like this. I don't like this, kind of savvy, clever. Because again, it's like Saw, where he's very clever. He's one step ahead of everybody with all these traps and all. It's like, no, I just want him to be a monster who works on instinct.
Yeah,
and not like setting up these sly little traps for people and all. It's like, no, I don't want that. This is why I stopped watching horror movies for a while, because every movie was like that for a while, where it was just people getting stuck in these elaborate traps and dying in these like you creative but ultimately pointless deaths, and I just did not enjoy them. And that's why I took a break for a little while. But they're trying so many different things, and I don't even know if you can fairly call them homages. It's just well, we need this is a Jason for the 21st century. No, I don't want that.
No,
there's a not your mama's Jason thing happening.
I prefer my mama's Jason.
Yeah, I mean he's parkouring, he's moving super fast, he's keeping he's holding captives, he's laying traps, and he's just prolonging people's deaths for no reason. It's a torture porny, and I do not care for it.
Yeah, it gives him too much agency as a killer. I like the supernatural Jason, where there's this idea that it's like he's almost like this kind of vengeance spirit, and if like you stay out of Crystal Lake, if you stay out of these cursed grounds, then you're safe. Whereas here, he's much more predatory. I mean, Donnie, how close is Donnie even to Crystal Lake?
Yeah, it is a mystery as to why he dies, because if he's a front for Jason, then that's part of the profit plan. And if he's stealing weed, that's another thing. I would like to know that.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, I guess that's the assumption the movie wants me to make, because he killed 4 people who 2 of whom were stealing his weed before. And the 5th one, he's taken captive, and apparently someone is laundering her clothes while she has been trapped on a mattress for 6 fucking weeks, because she, aside from some very wet and tousled hair, she looks just fine. Like, I wish I could look this good after 6 hours, the way she looks this good after 6 weeks shackled to a dirty mattress.
Yeah, it puts him too much in the realm of like a guy you see on the 6 o'clock news, like they bust into some guy's house and find out he's been keeping a woman chained up in a back room.
Yeah, he's more like a serial killer, and it's like, no, he's supposed to be a serial killer. He's just supposed to be, he's a monster, and that's one of the reasons why Part 6 works so well, because they lean into that.
Exactly.
He's not really a person; he's a monster.
Exactly.
I think this is where the movie lacks for trying to have its cake and eating it too, is that it wants to be every kind of Jason, and they picked the right actor for it. I don't think it's not a real problem with his physicalization of the character. It has to do with the script machinations of how his character is constructed. And that's where it's not my favorite look on Jason Voorhees.
Oh, yeah. Derek Mears physically is a fantastic Jason.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were going to continue on the series, I would completely vouch for bringing him back. It's just how the writers have chosen to retool who Jason Voorhees is.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to his Swamp Thing, because I think he's going to be a fantastic Swamp Thing.
Oh, and he's just a fantastic guy, too. I've just got to give a shout out there. I got a chance to meet him at a horror convention probably about 4 years ago, and my brother tried to pay him for a photo, and he told my brother, "I can't take this. I'm still working. A lot of other guys here can't work anymore. Go ahead and give this to them," and gave my brother his money back.
That man, Derek Mears, may be a national treasure. That is a fantastic story. It says a lot about him. We love Derek Mears here. But let's get back to the movie. He may fortunately or unfortunately be saddled with. As far as I'm aware, unless you guys saw something, these tunnels are not flooded with toxic waste at midnight. No. Okay, so we can check that off of our list. Whitney finds the backpack that Jason has swiped off of her brother Clay, and she realizes A, it's her brother's, B, that there's a broken GPS unit inside of it, and looks like someone's been reading Story by McKee. Way to go, guys. And so she tears out a wire from inside of it and begins to pick the lock that holds her shackles together. Also, once again, where did Jason get shackles? That's okay. He did crazy stuff in part 2 and part 3, and he did crazy stuff and all this shit. Fine. I don't care. I'm not going to be nitpicky like some internet websites might lead you to believe.
We're not going to go there.
No, we're not going to go there. Okay. So, listen, Whitney manages to break her bonds and she makes a run for it. She sticks to the side of the lake as a way to get on out of there. Cut to Bree doing a sexy dance for Trent, but also for Lawrence and Chewie. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I've never been in a room where a woman dances solo. Also, the worst possible fucking song. No one would dance to this. I don't care how much wine you are drinking. There's no amount of wine drunk that's making me solo dance to that piece of shit audio entertainment. But this prompts Lawrence to encourage Chewie to try to seduce Bree, or at least come on to her. And he responds by stating he'd have a better shot fucking a penguin than Bree. And quite frankly, I think he is wrong. Penguins are quite adept at avoiding predators both in and out of the water. That's right. I've been to an aquarium lately. Humble brag.
Just how much time did you spend at that aquarium?
So much time looking at that piece of information tacked onto a wall and reading it to my son. So during his flaming drink seduction of her, Chewie manages to burn his lip and then break a chair that causes Trent to flip the fuck out. Chewie states that he can fix it. They don't call me the wood wizard just because I masturbate a lot, is his line. Once again, Chewie, the best written character in this entire movie.
Greater 100%. Words have never been spoken.
100%.
We then get a very long Friday the 13th monologue, something we just adore here. The only thing missing from this is an old-timey impersonation. I really feel someone should have whispered in his ear, give us an old-timey impersonation. And then I would be bowing at this movie's feet. Just something that would only make sense if you had watched a Bugs Bunny cartoon lately.
Well, I think this is the monologue, the characters talking to themselves, which is like the color red in The Sixth Sense is usually an indicator that something terrible is about to happen. Mm-hmm. This is probably the only one that actually sounds kind of natural. I mean, everybody has just wandered around the house just muttering to themselves, particularly if they're angry at somebody. And you're just, just stalking around the house, just, talking shit about this person because they can't hear you. It's like they know they can't hear you. So you're just kind of, you talking to this imagined version of them. And then, and Trent deserves every last drop of ire that he directs at him in this, monologue. It's just, and he's just bashing everything in this stupid sports equipment shed. Where he rightfully points out that there's no reason there should be a hockey stick in there. No, there is no reason for any of that stuff to be in there. Let's get back to the details of that amazing shed. We only cut back to Bree finally getting the chance that she's always wanted to seduce Trent, which I think would have required asking him.
Oh, yes. That's all it takes. Just asking him to come with her. And the next thing we see, they're in bed together. This does present the one sequence where Trent delivers lines that made me genuinely laugh, both in the theater and watching it again now. And they are him constantly giving her compliments on her breasts.
It just sounds so natural.
His awkwardness and him trying to come up with new adjectives does sound very real. And for whatever reason, your tits are stupendous, you have perfect nipple placement, still makes me laugh. Because they do not make him look cool, and they are not meant to.
It's a little Patrick Bateman-ish, I think.
Going back to this being the Ready Stenellis Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. If you're able, nipple placement, that's a little cringy. I'm like, it's like you've been paying too much attention to anatomy posters or something. That's gonna be like, yeah, I'm putting my shirt back on. That's a buzzkill right there.
But they've given it to the cringy character. They haven't given that to a character we're supposed to consider cool. So that's why I kind of enjoy it. I don't enjoy it because I think it is the best, most well-written line in the world. I think they've given the proper line to the proper character.
We're kind of leaving out poor Lawrence, who does not get a lot to do in this movie. I mean, I mean,
untrue.
Well, I mean, yeah, he gets to almost masturbate in the living room of his friend's parents' hunting lodge, and I mean, who among us has not taken that opportunity to just you're staying at people's house and everybody's just gone off doing whatever. Well, time for a little me time, I guess.
That's right. Once you see that winter catalog of fully clothed people, it's time to slightly turn to the left and masturbate so that the deer head does not look at you directly.
When I saw this the first time, when he looked up and saw that deer head, I was halfway expecting him to put the catalog away and just keep looking at the deer head.
Defying expectations. That's what Friday the 13th, 2009 is all about. So let's get back to poor Chewie. He finds the Scotch cabinet. You do not shoot 18-year-old Scotch. And I say this as a person who knows because I am old. Don't do that. Enjoy Scotch, for fuck's sake. But everything else in that entire area, he's absolutely correct about. You do not need half that shit. You certainly do not need skis in South Jersey, as Gina has broken the internet with her observation that what do you need skis for? You're skiing to the Wawa, and just lit the internet on fire on Friday.
This is the thing. You and I were talking through email. This was actually shot in Bastrop, Texas. And
now, in terms of placement, where is Bastrop in relation to Austin?
Just outside of Austin. It's very close to Austin. It's within very quick driving distance to Austin.
Sure.
And Bastrop is part of, what do they call it? The Lost Pines region or the Wandering Pines region, because it is very pine heavy in a part of Texas where pine trees should not grow.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that kills me about this movie is that they don't even try to cover up that they shot this in Texas, because other than the cast, the main cast, all the incidental characters have West Texas accents. Donnie and the creepy old woman who apparently knows about Jason and is cool with his killing spree and the gas station owner, they all sound like they're from West Texas.
So do you think their intention was to literally transport Friday the 13th from its New Jersey roots to Texas and just didn't bother? Or they figured no one would notice? Certainly Horror Incorporated did not think people would notice when they transplanted it from New Jersey to Southern California, let's say. And you can instantly tell because everything is fucking brown. Here, they don't care at all that they're showing you scene after scene of limestone walls near lakes, which is something that is very prevalent in Texas, not so much in South Jersey. Do you think they I don't think people will notice
So here's the thing is that there is a Jersey license plate. Watching this last night, I paused it when the missing poster is on the back of their car. They do have Jersey plates. But even if they're supposed to have driven down to Texas from New Jersey, in which case, why the hell would you take that drive? Again, why are there skis? There is no place in Texas where you are going to ski.
What are you skiing to the Whataburger?
Yeah.
Boom! Reference joke. Oh, God. Yeah, there's all sorts of wacky. Again, hockey sticks. South Jersey, not known for its hockey. Another place not known for its hockey, Texas. So there's just this cacophony of discordant things there. And I think I'm fine with it when it's a display of conspicuous consumption and not so much as when it's genuine set dressing. Like they put that hockey stick there so that they could make the hockey joke. So, but why would you have it, man? Why? Gina, what is your take on this?
Well, I clearly, Trent's family is the scion of the Dick's Sporting Goods chain, and that's just the overstock that they can't get rid of at the end of every season.
Sure, they're living off that overstock life.
I mean, I think that if you looked a little further, you'd probably see a box of badminton shuttlecocks, some scuba diving equipment, because you're at least going to use scuba diving equipment in South Jersey, as much as you would use a hockey stick. So
I don't know, those waters were pretty clear when we saw Chelsea from underneath.
Well, true, but you're still not skiing though. You're definitely not skiing.
Skiing is right out. So during this sequence, we get a bit of a reversal to Jason's traditional use of using your fuck style against you. Here, he sees that Trent and Bree are in the midst of sex, but decides not to interrupt them.
I'm gonna let them enjoy themselves a little longer.
Well, I think what he's assuming here is that he, in forecasting their fuck style, knows that they will be caught by Jenna, and therefore that the confusion and the anger that is caused by that reveal will make the players there split up. And so that is how he's using people's fuck style against them.
That is some extremely remarkable foresight.
No, listen, I'm not Jason Voorhees. I'm just reporting on what the man has done for over 2 years.
He would have to know that Jenna and Trent are a couple. Are they? I was never quite clear on that, because they don't really seem to like each other very much, but boy, is he annoyed when she goes off with Clay.
The amount of couples who I met who were in their 20s who genuinely liked one another, I could probably count on one hand.
Well, that's true, but he would. So Jason would have to, would have to assume that Jenna would just go off for several hours alone with another man that she's just met, and then assume that Bree would successfully get Trent into bed, and then assume that Jenna would come back just in time to catch them. There's a lot of assuming going on here.
Yes, there is. Welcome to the Friday the 13th franchise, Gina. Where assuming walks around with a hockey mask on.
I personally, I think more that Jason's just, sex positive for the 21st century. Wants to let them enjoy themselves one last time before he does them in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm down with that interpretation too. Well, we'll see how it plays out over the long haul. Needless to say, we cut back to that shed, as it was so referred to, the shed that has multiple walls. And we see that Chewie is playing around with a basketball, manages to damage something, then picks up a hockey stick, manages to bust a light. And finally, Jason appears behind him. He then offers Jason the hockey stick as it would complete his ensemble. And Jason pays him back for this joke by pushing him up against the wall and then kind of choking him a little and then forcing a screwdriver through the front of his neck into the base of his brain. I'd say that's where the direction it's heading. It is prolonged in a way that most deaths are not prolonged.
I hate it so much. I skipped over it because I hate it so much.
It's creepily sexual. It's like he's throat fucking him with the screwdriver. And especially like when you're talking about like he just got done watching these two going at it in the bedroom, there's this very dark subtext to like what his motivation is for doing this that I don't particularly care for.
Yeah, and like I said before, it feels very personal in a weird way. Like okay, you have nothing against this guy, you never even met him before, and you're just like torturing him to death. Like you're right. It is like I'm gonna you shove this thing sort of this vaguely phallic object into your face.
I mean, and he was going to shove that phallic object into his face one way or the other. I just think it would be more effective if it happened fast.
You know what it reminded me of?
But it doesn't benefit anything by happening slow.
It reminds me of, remember Saving Private Ryan?
Yes.
I remember Private Mellish, how the German soldier captures him and he kind of slowly pushes a knife into his chest, and how it's just like it's horrible. It's so brutal, especially because he's like trying to keep him quiet, and it's just that reminded me a lot of that. And it's like, don't reference Saving Private Ryan in your fucking slasher movie.
Yeah, this is not the place for that. You take that elsewhere.
No, and I don't know if that was intentional, but it's definitely what it reminded me of.
Yeah. I think you might have nailed that one. Like they're like, remember that? Let's try something like that. It's like, well, this isn't really the time or place for this.
Remember how awful and terrible and cringeworthy that scene was? Well, here it is again with this, this pothead teenager. It's like that the audience grows to love, and then he's tortured to death for no reason. Yeah,
I enjoy more of the quick brutality.
Yeah.
Than this sort of display, and something about it just strikes me wrong for a good half dozen reasons.
I mean, the old school Jason would have killed this kid with a screwdriver, but he would have like jammed it into his eye or jammed it into his ear or just into the top of his head, and it would have been bam, dead.
Yeah. You can do this. You can show gore. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to do that. And you can show him still being half alive after it just happens and then falling to the ground. I don't have a problem with that. But the extended, like, it becomes comical at a certain point, because there'd be no way once the screwdriver is inserted into this dude's throat that he's still exerting the kind of force to stop Jason Voorhees from doing it. So what the fuck is going on here? It just doesn't. It makes much less sense than any of the other deaths in this thing. It's needlessly cruel. Whereas we've seen like the oh man, I'm gonna have to cut out all of that stammering. The sleeping bag over the fire death.
Oh God,
is shocking, and it's unusual, but it's also weirdly iconic. Like I don't view it weirdly did not seem as torturous as, let's say, spoiler alert for Mandy, what happens in Mandy. That to me seems way more torturous than that campfire sequence, because the campfire sequence ends in 15 seconds. And what happens in Mandy seems to last half an hour. Like everything else in Mandy, it's a half an hour I enjoy watching, but still it takes a really long time, and it's torture for a reason. And I don't believe that torture with any sort of reasoning works in Friday the 13th.
Right. And I feel that, giving a run for, Chewie's death as far as most unnecessary and I would out of character be the right way to put it, is it's not in this segment, but it's what happens to Lawrence, where like, okay, Jason's never set anybody else as bait before. And it's like, again, this is so, awful and unenjoyable.
Well, we will get to that, of course, but right now we have a responsibility to ourselves and our listeners. It's time to choose our own death venture. That's right. If you were forced to die in one of the three ways presented in this segment of the film, which would you choose and why? Up for bid in this episode, we have arrow through the head, boat to head / machete through the head, and then screwdriver through neck into the back of your brain. And Preston, as our guest, I choose you to go first.
Oh, arrow to the head in the boat.
Yeah.
Easy, quick, apparently painless, and I get to die driving around an attractive woman topless on a pair of water skis. Guy goes out on a high note, doesn't even know what hit him.
This is true. I have a feeling we might be 3 for 3 on this one. Gina, what say you?
Yeah, definitely arrow in the head, because I am fully dressed when my body is found, which is important to me.
No, you are not. You are half dressed. You have taken off your fuck Christmas shirt before it happens.
Ah, damn it! I love that shirt. Well, fine. Maybe they can bury me in it.
That's the most important part. I'm sure you have dozens of those in your drawer at home, and your family knows that is how you wish to.
It's in my will. Yes, but yeah, that's really the only one of these that I even found like kind of entertaining, for lack of a less horrible way of putting it. But it's just like it was quick, it was unexpected. I thought it worked much better in the spirit of the series.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't say there would be much of a difference between taking a machete through the top of my head than taking an arrow through my head. But you're terrorized and take a boat to the forehead in the second scenario. So I'm absolutely taking the arrow through my head. Also, I would look like Ryan Hansen. And that's the most important thing of all, how you look. And so let's end it there on the perfect note for Kill by Kill. Preston, where can people find you and the many products you produce on these internets?
I'm on Twitter. It's at Preston Fassel. That's PrestonFassel. And I'm also on Facebook under the same. And you can find Our Lady the Inferno on Amazon.com or through Barnes & Noble. It is my neon-drenched new wave ode to 1980s horror cinema and has at least 2 Friday the 13th shout-outs in it. It is my kind of flipping the script on traditional 1980s slasher stories. It is a slasher with a both female protagonist and a female villain. It's about the events leading to the showdown between 2 alpha women of the 80s. Ginny, who is a 21-year-old streetwalker who's a runaway from the Midwest, who is much more than meets the eye, and Nicolette Astor, who is a safety inspector at the Staten Island landfill, who moonlights as a serial killer who travels into Times Square after dark to kidnap women and bring them back to the garbage dump to hunt after hours. And as Nicolette unfortunately finds out, Ginny is much more brilliant and much more dangerous than even her.
All right. Hitting buy now. Click. Done and done. And of course, the new edition of Fangoria, do we know exactly when that will hit the streets?
Actually, by the time this goes up, it should be out.
Wonderful.
The first issues are shipping October the 2nd.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Excellent. I cannot wait. Gina, where can people find you on the internet?
I write about old television and movies and pop culture at my website, ginaradcliffe.com. I am also one of the critics at alcohollywood.com, and I am on Twitter at porcelain72.
Excellent. Do it today, people. If you want to reach out to us, there's a few simple ways to do it. On Twitter at KillByKillPod. Of course, you can email us killbykillpod@gmail.com if you have something longer than 280 characters to say. And And we're on Instagram, Kill by Kill Podcast. We have the Facebook page and group where you can discuss the show in more detail. Of course, you can support us on Patreon. Please do so. This podcast does have expenses, believe it or not, and we'd like to cover them. That would be neat. It would mean so much to us. And of course, if you do not have the spare change to do that, you can also just rate and review us on iTunes. If you tell us what your favorite kill is in the entire Friday the 13th franchise, we'll talk about it here on the air. That is our solemn promise to you, the Kill by Kill listener.
It's part of our benefits for being a Patreon supporter.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, we have to mention the people who donate to us.
Please do so.
So it's a short list so far. Not that I am saying that with any meaningful tone in my voice, but after a couple of days we have, and I'm just going to read them as they are entered on Patreon. Stephen Brogy, he was our very first Patreon supporter. Paul, Morgan Ferdinand, Megan Sunday, John Brandon, Dawn Gildenmeister, and Anna Hustler. Thank you so much. We love you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We thank you from the bottom of our cold black hearts. And so that just about does it. But don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. So until next time, for myself, for Gina, and for Preston, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.